welcome everybody to the City of Las Vegas City Council meeting. I'd like to welcome our guests and then the people that are watching on television as well. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Louis A. Trujillo.
Present.
Councilor David G. Romero.
Here.
Councilor Joseph P. Baca.
Here.
Councilor Michael L. Montoya.
Present.
Councilor David A. Ulibarri Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Montoya, would you please lead us this time?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please offer a prayer, Mr. Montoya?
At this time, I'd like to give thanks for our community, for being so supportive, patient, understanding. Our world is changing by the day. We ask that you have compassion over this council, for we are going to be working together and hopefully for the betterment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to invite our guest in. I forgot his name. Where's the podium? This is Asley, everybody. This is from the Animal Welfare Coalition. Say hi, Asley. Please tell us about it.
Asley is a Rottie Shepherd mix. He's about 3 years old, and as big as he is, he wants to be a lap dog. When he gets comfortable, he just kind of nuzzles in and wants to crawl into your lap. He's really sweet.
So come pick him up. The Animal Welfare Coalition, give them a call, and they also accept donations for food, blankets, straw, anything. So please support the Animal Welfare Coalition.
And he would love to meet me. He'd love a great home.
I think I want to take him.
How long do we had him?
He's been with us about 2 weeks. Not too long.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Rottie, you're a supermodel.
He's the star of the show. Thank you so
you.
much. Okay, have a good
Have a good
evening.
evening.
And he just sat there real calmly.
He is so calm. He was out there and I knelt down and he put his head on my lap. I was like, oh man. All right. Cassandra.
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with one amendment, and that is to move item number 16, Councilor's Report, right under item number, between item number 7 and 8, right below a mayor's recognition proclamation item.
There's a motion on the floor. I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, Cassandra?
Councilor Baca.
Yes.
Councilor Romero.
Yes.
Councilor Montoya.
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I ask that that item stay under the mayor's recognition and proclamation from now on? Or shall we wait till the organizational meeting to?
Yeah, we could do that. We could wait till then. But it's a good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Is going to be the mayor's appointments and reports.
I don't have any appointments at this time, but I would like to acknowledge all the people who are making masks for our community. There's so many people who are manufacturing masks, and they should be recognized. I wish I had a name, but I'm working on getting a list of names and later doing a proclamation for them. but they're just so wonderful. We have a lady by the name of Kathy Jameson that is sending me masks for our community from Texas. She has relatives here in New Mexico and around Las Vegas. I'd like to recognize her and thank her too. That's about it for my reports right now.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
just on that topic, we actually put on the webpage, or it's going to go on the webpage tonight, a thank you to all the teachers.
okay, thank you so much. So on our webpage, there'll be a thank you and a tribute to the people who are making masks for us. If you could add Kathy Jameson to the list, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just for informational purposes, sometime this week, I had a call by a gentleman that expressed that he was very concerned that he didn't think that he and that the community could benefit by getting more information about the situation of the COVID-19, where the community is at, a report, and he said the paper, he says, isn't printing anything, and being that they only print so many days out of the week. So he really was asking for more information from the city and an update.
Did you refer to our webpage?
No, I did not.
Okay, because there's a lot of information there,
Yeah,
and we try and update it as much as possible.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, he's welcome to do that.
yeah. And actually, I couldn't talk to him too much because I was on the air at the time that he called, so I answered the phone call. But yeah, he said he wished he could get more information out, so. And I don't know if he even has a computer, if
Access
he's
to that.
online or anything, so.
Yeah.
But I told him I'd mention it.
Thank you. And maybe we could get Leo to the radio station more often.
Sure.
Leo Maestas.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Yes. He's an outstanding person. He's done so much work for the
Yeah.
community, and he's a great resource for us.
Sure.
Mayor's recognition proclamation, I'm done. So councilors report, we will have a 3-minute time limit on councilors' reports. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mike.
I'd just like to report that Councilman Baca and myself met with our constituents over Ralph and Francis Marquez over at Santana Street, and they got quite a few issues up there. Code enforcement met us there also, and our city manager is aware of the situation, and we're going to be working with them. And one of the items was an abatement that needs to happen across the street, and the other one was a fencing issue and a parking issue. So there's a pretty crowded neighborhood, but we're dealing with it, and I guess they had been ignored for a couple of years, I guess. So we made sure that their request is not falling on deaf ears, and we'll be acting on those. And also, we also met with the city manager and our public works director on Columbia and Prince on Peco Street, and with Mr. Leonard Lucero. And again, there is a property there that is belongs to the city that's a dead end, and needs to be cleaned up. People are throwing trash, so the staff is going to be working on seeing if we could abate that, or maybe even sell that property to the property owners there. And then, as your suggestion, Mr. Mayor, we're going to have a cleanup on the first Saturday of every month, and Ward 2 is going to be having the first one on June 6th, Saturday, June the 6th. And I'll be getting together with staff to see how we're going to work all that out, but more than likely, we'll locate it at Hanna Park and put some trash bins there, and then concentrate on the worst areas. And one of them being across from Walmart and Hacienda and all that area. I think it's a great idea, and I hope the community gets involved. If you need to clean your yards or anything like that, there's going to be accessibility for our trash bins there. Also, I'd like to just get a verbal permission from Mayor and Council. I'd like to go ahead and go on the online with New Mexico DOT tomorrow at their commission meeting, just to thank him properly for all the projects that they've been doing for us in this community. And I know we're in partnership with them, and that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and sure, you're welcome to do it. That's good. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
Anybody
Mayor.
else? Mr. Vaca?
Councilor, what time is that cleanup starting?
We have to have a meeting with staff
Oh, okay.
still,
Yeah.
but we'll put out a flyer,
Okay.
and maybe we'll even go on the radio station.
And make sure that I get a copy of the flyer and we can announce it.
Yes.
We're trying to standardize it to where we meet at a city park around the city
Yeah.
once a month. And hopefully 10 o'clock would be a starting time for all the cleanups.
Okay.
So all I ask too is that you coordinate it with Maria and the gentleman at Solid Waste, just so that she'll be in the loop, and the guys at Solid Waste are always ready to help. They're fantastic staff over there. And so we'll keep you informed, Maria. Anybody else? Councilman?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I had mentioned to you a while back that the residents of Commerce, Pecos, all that area, had mentioned to me that they sometimes feel kind of ignored, and because of where they live, it's not very visible, but they did express that they wish that a cleanup could be scheduled for that area.
You guys are in the same,
No,
what ward are you in? 3?
yeah,
Invite them to come out
Yeah.
on the day that we meet up there.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to ask people to get out of their houses to help us.
right.
And not just want somebody to
Yeah.
go clean their property for
Yeah.
them.
And that's what I mentioned to them, you know, that they have to do their part as well.
Sure.
But they asked if some of those big bins could be placed there, in some area. And you mentioned that the Ward 3 cleanup is sometime in August?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Councilors, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I can, I just want to, thank Dr. Taylor and your staff for all that you've done in, a little bit of a time that you've been, you've been our city manager, but you've accomplished a lot of good things. Your staff, Mr. Aaron, finance, everybody that's been on board, this time there's a difference within our community and people are seeing it, and thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vaca?
I forgot. Councilor, were you going to give a report on the street that we saw the other day? Don Fidel?
I just spoke with the city manager
Oh, okay.
as to, some of the issues.
Okay.
There's that and some other code enforcement, and, he's assured that code enforcement will start getting on it, and
Okay.
it's in his,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Cassandra?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I forgot one small item. Tomorrow morning, we'll also be coordinating a meeting with Commissioner Max Trujillo and the city and the county to define the boundary areas or the city limits up on 8th Street Extension, so that we can better serve the constituents and the county as well as the citizens of Las Vegas.
Good.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for
Mayor.
doing that. Appreciate it. Ms. Preskis?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is public input. Is everybody done with their council's report?
Yes.
I had received one public input via email, and this was from Ms. Phyllis Ludy at 909 Jackson. And I'll go ahead and read her public input comment. I am writing to request that a complaint of unreasonable noise as described in Municipal Ordinance Section 192-12 be read into the record of the City Council meeting scheduled for May 20th. Specifically, several motorcyclists have been and continue to ride their motorcycles in downtown Las Vegas in such a manner as to produce a great deal of loud and unnecessary noise at night between approximately 10 p.m. and midnight. This noise is sufficient to be detrimental to the repose and health of anyone who lives in or near the downtown area. Additionally, this behavior appears to be in direct contravention of the governor's stay-at-home public health directive.
Thank you.
The next public input, I had Ms. Beth Ring sign up for public input, and she will be speaking on events closing.
Do you want me to stand here, or do you want me to go there?
You can come up here, Beth.
Okay. Hi, I'm Beth Rings, those of you who don't know me. I had several things I want to talk about, but I'm going to focus on one, and I read it in the paper today, and it kind of made me sad. is that you're actually thinking, unless this is a done deal, that you're actually going to consider closing and not having any of these festivals for your people. Because your people in town here need something. This is not going to last forever. And I think by now, if they don't know to put a mask on, if we still would need one by July, I don't know where you've been, because everybody has a mask. You're supposed to stay home, but obviously by the 1st of June, other different businesses will be open, thank goodness, but this town cannot, I don't know how you're going to survive if you don't have revenue with some of these festivals, because this town is taking a hit.
Yep.
And you can't just raise taxes to do this, because it's not going to last. And, you know, I really think that, I hope you would consider this, because being an outsider, not born here, and doing things within the community, your people, the people here in town, which are lovely, they talk to me. One, because I talk, but also because, you know, they know I don't know anybody. So who am I going to say anything to? So, except for you peeps. So, what I'm saying is, they need something. They need something. To cancel all of them, I think it would be really bad. I really do.
I don't like to comment on public input.
Oh, no, you
because-
can comment all you want.
But this all depends on what happens with the governor's
Oh, yeah.
mandates with large crowds. I don't think she's going to go back on that. Today, she had a news conference and she mentioned that and how we need to slow down and we're not going to open yet. But I highly doubt she will go back on allowing large crowds. But just to let you know that if things go okay, you know, maybe later on towards September, if things clear up and we open up, we could have a combined activity for them.
You're going to need it. Also, one more thing here is that coming from Santa Fe, coming into town, there's a brand new billboard that says, "Come on over to our drive-in." It's closed.
I know.
Is it going to be open?
We were this close to opening last week, and the governor's office didn't let us. They put us in the same category as theaters.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Really?
Yes.
I mean, you're in your car.
I know.
I mean, this is cheap entertainment for people here.
I know, and everybody loves it, and everybody wants to go. We were this close to opening last week, but we were shut down by the governor's office.
Really?
So we're working on it.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Give us a chance.
Oh, I do. I totally believe it. I totally believe it will happen, but
Okay.
it's just kind of disappointing.
Thank you, I know.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I'm
please.
sorry, ma'am, I didn't get your name.
My name?
Yeah.
Oh, my name's Beth. Last name's Rings, like on fingers. Lord of Beth.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else for public input?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
That
you.
concludes public input.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
The next item on the agenda is presentations, not to exceed 10 minutes per person. Our presentation by Maria Gilbert on the water treatment systems operation.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening, Maria.
councilors, Mr. Manager. 10 minutes.
I know. I know it's a 2-hour show, but...
It's not all about me, it's about the dog.
Yeah.
I'm here today, this evening, to give a presentation, brief the council on our water and our wastewater operations contract. I want to give a little history, a little bit of the scope, where the city's going, how we're working forward or moving forward on water and wastewater operations. So generally, the scope of work in the contract is for management and operations of both facilities. A little bit of the history is the services we started realizing we needed services when we went from 14 certified operators to 4 certified operators at the plants. Certified operators, certified, qualified, and competent operators are required, mandated by the state of New Mexico. There is a state statute that requires that our facilities, because of the type of facilities, the type of equipment, the size of the community, that we have a level 4 operator at both our water and our wastewater plants. So when we lost several of our operators, about half of them due to retirement and a couple due to transfers, we needed to reach out and find a temporary solution, not a permanent solution, but a temporary solution to help us get through to the point where we can start bringing up some of our city employees. So in about January, late January of 2019, the city advertised for operation services. We had 2 companies respond, Sauter Miller and Associates and Jacobs. Those proposals were reviewed by an independent group, including water and wastewater facility, and those 2 companies were ranked. The results were presented to the council on February 20th, and they were approved and accepted by the council on February 20th of 2019, and the contract was signed. A 4-year contract was signed on March 4th of 2019. The contract is a time and materials contract, and the reason it's time and materials is because we never know what we're going to end up needing. As a matter of fact, right after this, I think it was actually right before the contract was signed, when we were already getting assistance from Sauter Miller, we had the power outages, and those power outages resulted in the wastewater plant having no power, which the one facility we have that we can't stop our product from coming in is the wastewater facility. It flows downhill, and it flowed downhill. And without pumps, we would have eventually ended up with an environmental situation. So the company helped us get some generators, because our city generators are in need of repair. Helped us get some generators, and that was a situation where having that experience, having the phone numbers, just the phone numbers that they had, where they were able to help us get a hold of some vendors. We were able to get a generator up here in just a few hours from Albuquerque with the help of our this operations contract. So that's why it's a time and materials, because on some days I may only need them for 20 or 30, 40 hours, whatever that week brings, and then other weeks, sometimes there are critical situations. And so I just can't specify how many hours per week I'm going to use these employees. The state mandates that if I'm going to make any process changes, if the city is going to make any process changes, that a level 4 must be there. It's not just that they're token, it's not just that I have their name, that I can put down their name on a report. If a process change is necessary and anybody other than a level 4 makes it, it's a violation of state statute. And those other leveled employees could lose their certification, as well as myself, as well as the level 4 who's representing the city. So this is not a job where just anybody can come in, and even if we teach them what steps to do, if they don't have those certifications, we could put the city in liability. The health and safety of our community would definitely be a priority, as well as the careers of other operators. So as I said, it is a time and materials, and the purpose of it is to ensure proper operations and maintenance of the facilities. The operators assess water quality, and they make process changes, and those process changes can happen 6 times in a week, they can happen twice in a week, they can happen 30 times in a week. It depends on the water quality and whatever we're dealing with. They also provide training, sampling, equipment maintenance, inventory, permit renewal, and inspection services. The company that we ended up hiring was Sauter Miller, and what they bring to the table is combined over 150 years of certified qualified experience. So this is after they've all been certified qualified. I combine all of those together. I've got 150 years of experience sitting at the end of a phone line. And that has proven to be very helpful when we've had some situations and I didn't have the experience in-house. We're able to dig from that, pull from that experience, and be able to solve some problems before they become catastrophes. Dedication. I go back to when we had that power outage. The staff members showed up, and the staff members from Sauter Miller were here for almost 36 straight hours. They actually went and bought pizza for our crews, the city crews that were still there. And the team came together, and we were able to get through that emergency. The depth of operators goes into the 150 years. The depth of contacts. Thanksgiving, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, it was the day of Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving, we had an issue, and I started calling all of the contractors that I could call. No one was answering the phone on Black Friday. Sauter Miller called the same people, and they picked up the phone. So that was also a tremendous help. So sometimes just having that connection where they've known these people for 30 years, and they see that this operator is calling, they know that person, they take the phone call, even if it's on a weekend and they're at home. So moving forward, we definitely want to get away from this. This is not something that we want to continue to do. I want to be able to bring our staff members up first and primarily. We do have a couple of employees who are at level 2s at the water treatment plant, and I do not have anybody really at the wastewater plant that is ready to go into the management position. I do have a level 4 at the city, but his expertise is needed in the lab. His management skills are needed in the lab, not as managing the facility. He has managed the facility before, and it was not a working situation. So where he works best is in the lab, and he's a tremendous lab operator. So moving forward, again, I would like to build from within. So that's the first thing we're working on. I do make available trainings, state trainings. The Sacramento University out of California, they also offer very low-cost trainings. Those are made available to the employees. We have been trying to do some in-house training. The gentleman who's running the water treatment plant is an instructor for the state school. So we have him on staff, and he does some training with the guys. So we are trying to do this in-house training, hands-on training, as well as making available some after-hours, some online training, as well as some physical schools that they can go to. So one of the other things we need to do, and I'm going to work with the city manager on this, is accurate job titles and accurate job descriptions. Some of these job titles, a laborer at the wastewater plant, it's not a laborer. That's an operator. It might be an operator in training, but he's still an operator. His job title is laborer. So the laborer title is, we need to work on that. So job titles, job descriptions, and along with that does go the proper pay. I did do an analysis. The AWWA Association produces every year a pay analysis of the region. I did take that from last year. I did look at it for our area, and I did do an independent analysis for our area, and then also taking into account that we do have a lower cost of living. I have some recommendations, again, to work with the city manager on. Our employees are paid pretty good. I think we need to make sure that what we're being paid is actually in the pay scale. So again, I want to work with the city manager on that. Another option is to bring them in from high school and start them right out. There is a community down south, Las Cruces, that takes kids right out of high school and immediately sends them to Dona Ana County's water and wastewater program, sends them to school for, I believe it's 2 years. So they're a city employee going to school for 2 years, and then after that they have a 5-year commitment. I think it's a 4 or 5 year commitment to the city. That is a big commitment up front for the city to make, but it's something maybe we can work with, maybe not exactly that program, but these are the kind of things that we're thinking about. How can we get somebody from high school to even be aware of this profession? How do we get them into the right schools and the right training? And how do we bring them up and keep them connected to this community so that we don't lose them?
Mr. Mayor, a quick question before you go forward. What does that community do with the students that they hire? Are they paid? You say they're a city employee, so the city pays them, or do they get funding from somewhere to pay them?
I believe the city actually pays them. Las Cruces has I believe, a little bit more funding ability than we do. And I believe it's a new program so I'll talk to Joshua about it and get a little bit more experience
Be nice if there was
and
funding
understanding
available
on how they
somewhere.
do it. Workforce Solutions has presented to us an opportunity for Workforce Solutions to cover, I believe it's half the salary of an incoming employee, as long as they're committed to some sort of trade where they can advance in and where it's technical, and that the city commits to keeping that employee. So I need to work with Workforce Solutions on that as well. I think that would work with the high school program. And then the other one would be to do a trade program, working with Luna or Highlands. So there are some opportunities. Some are maybe a little pie in the sky, but I'd rather shoot for the stars. Other ones are just as simple as finding the people who have the motivation. And I honestly believe that's what it really comes down to is we do have people who are capable, but when you let them, when they understand that the health and safety of the entire community is on their shoulders, a lot of times people don't want that responsibility. So it's a very special person that's willing to take on this career and this future and the health and safety of the entire community. So I know I got a little bit off of the contract. This is where I want to go with that contract. I want to finish the contract sooner than later and get it into the point where we are self-sustaining like we were once before. Again, we went from 14 certified operators, I think 7 of them were level 4s, down to 4 certified operators, of which 2 of them are level 2s right now. So we only have 1 or 2 level 4s in the community. And unfortunately, I'm one of them, but I'm the director. I'm actually not allowed. My level 4 does not count because I would have to physically be at the plant the entire time. So that's the purpose behind the contract. That's the goal of getting away from this contract. And I look forward to continuing to work with the local high schools. We just got a young man out of Highlands recently, and we're hoping that we can work with him and build him up. And then we have two other relatively junior employees. I haven't seen the fire in them yet, but I'm hoping we can build that fire in them to where they get passion for this job, this profession. And this is a profession. There is a code of conduct that they must sign once they become operators, and that's in our state statutes.
Mr. Mayor? Ready? Maria, how many employees do you have working on that level 4, or do you have any?
Working on the level 4? Currently, no, one. I have one gentleman who has been testing for his level 4, and he's, I don't want to embarrass anybody. They've taken, many people have taken this test numerous times and have been unable to pass it. It's common to take this test 6 or 7 times and still not pass it. It's not an easy test. The people that need to be running these plants have to make split-second decisions, know how much chemical to put in your water, be able to find a problem and a solution pretty quickly. So it's not, it does take a wide variety of skills, from technical to math skills to communication skills, being able to do reports. There's a lot of skills required. So to answer your question, I have one whose his next test would be a level 4, and he's tested for that a few times, and he's not ready yet.
Mr. Romero?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just a couple comment. First, the question as far as the contract, how long is that contract?
It's a 4-year contract. There's 3 more years left on it.
Okay.
But I think it's 60 days. I'll have to look at it.
Isn't it annually, renewed annually?
There's an addendum every year, but I think we can cancel the contract with 60 days notice once we get a level 4 that can run the plants. I think there's a 60-day, 30 or 60-day cancellation.
And the other comment that I had is that we've had this contract in place over a year and 4 months. I remember when we approved that contract, I remember specifically, I think we had mentioned, or you had mentioned, that the cost would be about $300,000 a year. I know we're well above that, or almost double, almost $1 million. I think it was almost $900,000. Within the past year and a year and 3-4 months, and this is my opinion, I don't take it personally, but I don't think that we've done enough as a city to move away from this contract. I think that we need to give a time. I mean, we can't give a timeline, but we can't continue to afford to pay, this what we're paying Southern Miller right now. Another concern that I have that I don't think it's been addressed is the contractor has, and this is what I'm being told, has direct oversight of city staff. And I know that's become a union issue. I think there's been, some things brought up within that, and I think that needs to be addressed here in between. I don't think that these contractors should be directing our staff as to what to do. I mean, they have their scope of work, and they shouldn't be telling our employees what to do.
That's what has to be done, is their job is to manage, in the contract, it's to manage the facility and manage the system. So as an operator, the level 4 is the one who's going to say this needs to be done, so they have to go do the work. Now, when it comes to disciplinary action, they don't have any say over that. When it comes to pay, when it comes to any employment stuff related to the employee, that has nothing to do with the contractor. The only thing would be as having to manage the facility, and part of managing the facility is handing out taskings and requirements. That's the connection.
And I guess there's a professional way to handle that, in my opinion. That some of the stuff that I've been told that happens shouldn't be told, and I think that needs to be addressed, Mr. City Manager. I think, Mr. Mayor, I think we need to come up with a plan that we need to, we can't continue to say we're going to do away with it. I think it's been over a year, and as you can see, we still don't have anybody that's doing it. We have to come up with some type of plan to.
So, we have posted on the Municipal League, in the Rural Water Association, in the Optic. So we've posted in the community, we've posted outside the community. When I go to conferences, we talked about bringing people in. So bringing from the outside is going to be our only option for getting somebody quickly, somebody who already has a level 4. Bringing up from within, the earliest somebody could go, even from the level 2 to the level 4, is going to be at least 3 years.
And this is the way I look at it, my perspective in it is, right now we spend close to 900,000 in it. 900,000, but we can't, I mean, I don't know how much we're advertising for these positions, but obviously we can afford 900,000, so why can't we pay these level 4 a little more and recruit them even if they're from out of town? And we have that staff from within the, bring them in, and we, 900,000, I think we could afford nine level 4s. I mean, if we give them 100,000.
Yeah, and I don't disagree that part of it would be to look at the pay scale and the job descriptions. We are not the only community with this issue. Almost every community statewide is short operators. There's a few communities that have gone to fully having their systems operated by a private company. As a matter of fact, it's becoming more common than not that a city ends up turning their facilities over to a private entity to run the entire, from start to finish, on their facilities. When I'm part of the Utility Operator Certification Program, and I'm also on the Municipal League Environmental Quality Association, we have regular meetings where we're sitting there trying to brainstorm about how not just our community, but almost every community can solve their problem, because we are not the only ones. So, yeah, if I was to offer $100,000, I would probably be pulling a level 4 from another community who's going to then offer them $105,000. And again, I'm not saying that that's not the right thing to do. I believe we do need to look at our pay scales. But I've also had a particular employee come up to me and I said, you need to move up. You can move up. You can make more money. And their response was, I'm good where I'm at. I'm good. And so.
If we offered that, you might want to change positions, I think. That's how and we have a level.
Just to move on from the subject, but Mr. City Manager, I'd like for you to meet with Maria on a regular basis to see how we can end this contract sooner. I've had some concerns as well, and it's very costly to the city, and I understand by statute we absolutely have to have them. That's not even an issue for me. I understand that, and I understand the shortage. But even if it's, is it going to be cheaper to contract with somebody to take over our water program and our wastewater program? Maybe that's an option. That's something that, the money, the finance people and the manager and the director have to figure out. But I'd like to put this on a fast track to get out of that contract. And I know that's what you're saying tonight, Maria. I understand that, but.
Concur, I am for getting past this, at the same point, not putting the city in any bad situation.
Sure.
And making sure that we do have that right employee. We do have some employees that would love to be paid that amount, but I wouldn't trust them to treat my water. So.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Maria and I do meet every week, and we have extensive conversations. That's the reason why she's here today, because I told her that I thought the council would want to hear this. We are working on it. We have been discussing, looking at the pay scale and other things that we can do.
Good.
We're gonna look at everything and try to figure it out.
I appreciate that. Mr. Leoris?
Yes, Maria, before we say, director, we had like 3 or 4 guys that were level 4 there, previous employees.
We had 3 level 4s that retired within the last, since 2014, I had 3 level 4s, hold on, so I can be specific. I had 3 level 4s retire, 2 level 4s leave the city, and then the other ones were level 1s and level 2s, of which looks like about 3 or 4 left the city as well.
Any of those guys might want to come and
So
work back with the city or anything?
I've actually, a couple of them, I've asked them if they would be interested in coming back. I would love for them to come back. This is actually part of that discussion with the Municipal League and some other entities, is PERA. If they come back to the city and work under the city, I believe they lose their PERA, or their PERA gets deferred. And there is a legislator that has put forward a piece of legislation for police officers and water wastewater operators to where that doesn't happen, or can be modified in some way. I believe that piece of legislation has been has never made it to the floor. It continues to be presented every year, but it doesn't get very far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
When we talk about water, and maybe this is more a concern of mine, I guess, a personal concern, but one topic that I think we need to include always, and we need to have ongoing discussion, and that is the issue of drought. We never know when Mother Nature is going to bless us with rain or snow. We don't have any more snow up there, it already melted. I've been following some research. There's some scientists and meteorologists that are studying a lot of other water sources. They're very concerned about the level of several rivers that we don't get our water from those rivers, but they're very concerned about the Gila, the Canadian, the Colorado River, the Rio Grande. And so I was watching a program on TV the other day, and that led me to do some research, and the topic is mega droughts. I'm sure you know about it. And so right now, the whole Southwest is still under drought conditions. Meteorologists are saying, and I see it in my weather reports every day, that it's getting warmer and hotter. We're having temperatures in the low 80s right now for this time of the year. Right now, Forest Service has prohibited any fires, and the wildfire season has started earlier. Smoking restrictions as well are in place. I just don't want us to be not prepared if a drought hit us very seriously and very quickly. I wouldn't want to be scrambling to, what do we do now? So I almost feel that we need to at some times talk about it and be prepared and say, what can we do and what do we need to do to be ready for a drought? They're saying again, that the conditions are hotter and drier right now, and it's going to get worse.
So the city does have an emergency response plan in case of drought, wildfire, and other things that can contribute to a change in the water availability and the impacts. And we're actually required to update those on the regular basis. And next year, I have to do the one for the federal government, for the EPA, which will be an emergency response plan for them after a vulnerability assessment. So we have those, and we'll continue to clean those up and modify those. The beautiful thing for this community was the acquisition of the space and Story. Now, I know that works when we have water. One of the things that, I believe it's Matthew Strom, I'm trying to remember, I think that was his last name. He and I used to have discussions that we're losing the snowpack, but we're getting more torrential rains. And so if we can harness those torrential rains, then the cities, a community like ours, can find a way to ride this out, because we won't have the snowpack with the slow distribution. We're going to have a sudden deluge, and we just need to be able to store that.
Yeah.
And between Story and the city of Las Vegas, right now we're in a good place.
Thank you. Maria, do you have anything else to report?
I was only planning on talking about this unless
Okay.
there's a question somebody has for me.
That's fine. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Maria, on the city generators that are not operating, what's the reasoning for that? And are they being replaced?
Very
Is there a
old.
plan?
Very old generators, and we're currently working on replacing them, and I'm working with Leo from OEM to try and help get some funding to be able to cover the costs of the generators.
And the last time that Southern Miller pitched in to help out with the...
They helped
Is there
us.
an additional charge for that? or is
We
that
had to
part
pay
of the
for it, it was our generators. They just helped us make connection with this company, and we did end up paying for the rental of that generator. So they are aging generators, they're actually very old generators, and we are currently working on a replacement plan for them. They need to be sized for the facility. Those generators were sized for the facility before we have now, so they're undersized.
And just to update me, you've been director there for how long?
This is the start of my 5th year.
50 years. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I agree with your recommendation that we need to move forward and give the city manager a recommendation to see if it's cost effective for us to go with an outside company totally or run it our own.
Okay, we can definitely explore that, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
Can we get a timeline or a plan of action, maybe presented to us next month or whenever we can, so we kind of know how, we're on a timeline and we don't wait another year before we're addressing this again?
Maria and I can work on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Before Maria leaves, she has made an offer to do a tour of the facilities, our water and wastewater facilities, and so I'm going to take advantage of that. I don't know if I think that many of you might be interested, and so we'll send out something asking for dates.
Okay, that would be cool. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Ms. Fresquez?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is City Manager's Report. We have Bill Taylor.
Bill?
Can I do it from here?
I don't think they can hear you there.
Okay, so I just wanted to take a few things that I know that are happening in the city that might be of interest to all of you. The first one is on fire prevention and reopening businesses. And the Fire Prevention Bureau is working with local businesses to help them reopen and conform with the occupancy requirements recently announced by the governor. They have posted an announcement on the city's webpage informing businesses about how to schedule an appointment. And they were very anxious to get started with this. They started as soon as it was announced by the governor. They were out there that next morning on Bridge Street, and without notifying anybody, but they just wanted to get a head start. And they now posted to people who want to make an appointment that they'll be over there, and they have to. This is a requirement that has to be met.
Mr. Mayor, real quickly, if I may. Thanks to the city manager, he did send a fire marshal to the radio station a couple of days ago, and he recorded an announcement, a PSA, that we are airing on both KFUN and Calvia about what you're talking about with the businesses.
And it's on our webpage. If you go to the City of Las Vegas webpage, that's one of the first things that pops up.
Thank you.
The second thing is that Maria's here, but the city's new utility service center is now open, and they have informed the public with the PSA. 3, on senior centers. Senior centers have stopped group activities, meaning eating together and exercising together, all of those kinds of things. But they have received additional money from the federal government, and they are providing meals to our seniors, anybody over 60. They just have to come and pick them up, and if they are uncomfortable doing that, they can request that those meals be delivered to them. So the other thing that's going on with the senior centers is they have just about finished or they have completed their new parking lot. They're doing some landscaping and some other things around that. Public Works, they continue to work on potholes, painting sidewalks, crosswalks, speed bumps, and parking lanes. They're replacing missing and damaged street signs and doing the sweeping the city streets. The backlog was so bad that that new machine with the new brush was worn out after 1 week. We had to get a new brush already. But it was really heavy-duty stuff. I mean, the dirt was so heavy in a lot of our sidewalks, along our sidewalks and our streets.
That wasn't covered under warranty? It's a new machine.
The machines know it.
The brushes, they're not covered under warranty?
No, they only have an expected life of so long, even under.
It's a wearable part.
Yeah. Okay. Park employees are working on the irrigation systems, watering, mowing the grass at the parks, keeping them clean. They've fixed and replaced broken benches at Plaza Park. I've asked them to look at to do an inventory of every park and every kind of equipment that we have out there, including the river walk. We're going to take a look at those things, so we have nice benches, picnic tables for people to use those parks. We have some young people that are working with us, and they're going to go out and paint those park benches this week, and so I think you'll see a noticeable improvement in the parks and going forward. And I've already talked to our prospective parks manager about this, and we're going to really push forward at all parks. And so I had a meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow with Councilor Romero on Crestone Park, but we're going to try to do everything we can to get all our parks up to speed.
I did have a citizen call me regarding the maintenance of El Crestone Park. The weeds are very high and so forth, and he requested that we get a crew out there if we can to help clean up that little park.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
on parks, and you mentioned benches, a while back I had a lady call me, and she was kind of upset. There's like 3 or 4 ladies that walk together, and she called me to the radio station and says, "Joseph, what happened to that bench in the park?" I says, "What bench?" The one that was by the lady in the park, it's gone. I said, why did the city remove it? That's where we would sit and rest and admire the lady in the park after our walks. Until, I don't know, I'll look into it. I guess I was told that somebody ran over the curb and smashed it straight into the bench and demolished it, so the city took it away.
Well, I'm not aware of that,
Yeah.
but there are park benches that have been removed. They've been taken back here, and they're being refurbished and
Yeah.
fixed and then put back. So we're, and that raises a good question. I think the mayor's talked to me, and I know that there are people interested in helping with the parks, and we're going to try to start something, where people get involved with the parks, adopt a park, volunteer for the park, and I think there are some people out there who'd be willing to assist with buying benches and things like that for the parks. We're going to really try to get with that. I mean, I know that in my previous life and in my current life, I would be willing to do that. I mean, a park bench costs about $1,200. We've got community organizations like the Rotary Club, which I belong to, which has purchased park benches before, and I think we can get them to do that again.
You might check with Alvin Quidon, he's the one that told me about that car running into that bench.
Okay, I'll follow
Those those ladies missed their bench by the lady in the park.
Well, and I think we may have it already replaced. If not, we'll have it replaced soon.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
The Riverwalk Park, the planning and design work on that project has begun, and the planning is expected to be done, finished by November, and we want to start construction right after that. We have about $238,000 available for construction projects, and which projects are going to be done will depend on what the planning people come up with ideas for us, but it'll be no problem to come up with $238,000. And $238,000 doesn't go a long way on a park that long, but we're going to work on that.
Good.
Next, I have the Great Blocks on Railroad. Community Development has been collaborating with the Main Street program on this project. So New Mexico Main Street has provided $550,000 for streetscape improvements that include road and sidewalk improvements, lighting, benches, and landscaping. And there's a small city match, which we've already committed to. I think it's around $40,000, so we're getting $10, more than $10 for every dollar we put into it. And so it will go from Grand Avenue, East Lincoln, down to Railroad, and then a block in each direction. And so we hope to start construction on those projects in late summer, early fall.
Good.
Code enforcement, this has been on everybody's topic. I've met with several of you about code enforcement issues. So animal control and basic code enforcement functions are with the police department. We had talked about having just animal control with the police department, but I had a meeting this morning with animal control with regard to some issues that councilors had raised, and we had a very constructive meeting, and I think that we have put in place some procedures to deal with some of these things, and some accountability and regular reporting. The animal control officers suggested, and I think it was a good idea, that maybe they could continue to work on the routine kinds of code enforcement issues, those kinds of things about people dumping mattresses and abandoned cars and those kinds of things, because they said those two things go together. And we only have one other person that we're going to put over in community development, and I thought that it would probably be best if that person would focus on bigger projects, condemning, if we need to look at buildings rather than trash on people's property. So I think that's how I'm recommending that we go forward.
Okay.
And
So, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
so we're gonna have the two officers over there and one over here?
one over here.
Okay.
And they're going to have to collaborate, and so we're going to make that expectation. I told them that, and I want to meet regularly with the person over at the police department that's in charge of code enforcement and animal control, and try to set up some good reporting and accountability measures.
Yeah, because according to them, they've been bouncing back and forth.
Yes.
And it's like Judge Trujillo said one day when we were in this meeting, in this chamber, that if we keep doing something like that, they're not gonna last 3 months. They're gonna go, way to be a police officer or somewhere else.
Yes.
But I think their interest is good. I believe that they love their job.
Yeah,
They like what they're doing, and they like working under the PD, so, well, that's a good trial basis for us to go and do that.
I was very pleased with that meeting and their enthusiasm for the job and their commitment, and I think that they are committed to doing these things and doing it in a customer service friendly way. So, and I think that there is some advantage to being with the police department because these are, when you show up on somebody's property and tell them that they have to do certain things, that they don't always get a warm reception, so.
So, but they're gonna be getting a supervisor over here as well?
No, they'll continue to, they have a supervisor at the police department. The person that we have over here will really just focus on code enforcement issues related to building problems. The next and final item is the city transfer station, and that's also been a concern of a lot of people. So the city transfer station has limited operating hours since we first had to close for COVID-19. Solid Waste has opened the transfer station and is trying to accommodate all customers, residential, commercial, and contractors. And that's been difficult because they've had to balance the increased demand from customers. As you can imagine, with so many people staying at home, they actually have time to clean up their yards, clean up their houses, and so there's been an increase in stuff that's going over there. And at the same time, they've had less time to deal with these things. They have counted the amount of stuff that's going in and the kind of customers they're getting. For every, there's 10 residential customers going in for every one contractor, and so for that reason, they've only allowed for 1 day a week for contractors. But we're going to meet shortly, in fact tomorrow, with the mayor and look at opening up, because we believe that as people have been in dumping the residential people, that demand is going to go down, and we'll be able to do more to accommodate the contractors so that we can do 2 days a week there. But there's just with that amount of load, there's just limits on how much we can accept. There's environmental limits on how much we can accept, and so it's a real balancing act, and there's always somebody who's unhappy. When before it was our residential users that were unhappy. I think that we've dealt with that problem, and I think that as that problem gets resolved, we'll be able to deal with the contractors as well. So
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for the good job you're doing. I appreciate all your work.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I had a question, Dr. Taylor. You had mentioned about additional money to the senior center. Are we going to do a budget revision on that, or?
Yeah, it's already been done. It's been, I think, built into their budget. It was something like $17,000 and to provide increased meals, and we are able to provide meals to everybody.
So is that on the upcoming budget or budget?
No, that's for this year. And so it's for the remaining months of this year, and I don't know if I think it probably can be used again for next year if there's money extra. We could ask Wanda that question. We're not in the position where we've ever had to turn away a senior for lack of funding.
Okay. The other question or comment that I had is I think we've all been, you brought up animal control, and I was just wondering, Mr. Mayor and Mr. City Manager, and just a suggestion is maybe we could do like a animal control roundup. I know we have a lot of roaming. We could do a blitz or a media blitz as to, for this month, animal control is going to be out and about. Make sure that your pets are inside or they're licensed, because if not, we're focusing on, it doesn't even have to be a month, maybe a couple of weeks or something, to where the people are aware that, we're taking this serious. Don't let your dog roam around, because, they can be taken. We hate to do that. I know we don't want to fill up the animal shelter, but at the same time, got to hold people accountable with their pets.
If you take 2 of the dogs tonight, there'll be more room.
I'll take 2 if you take 2.
But this is another area where we're trying to coordinate between the animal control officers and the people that are running the center. And my discussions this morning with animal control and code enforcement. We're going to try to meet with them on a regular basis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Romero. Ms. Vasquez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is our finance report. We have our finance director, Mary Romero.
Welcome, Mary. If you'd like, you could remove your mask. I know it sort of muffles your voice.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the April finance report. And in your packet is the finance sheets. The third sheet, which is the Recreation Department, had an error on it. So I handed out the correct one, okay? So all the other ones are correct, except for that one. So with that, I'll go over that. So the first one is the general fund revenue and expenditure comparison. At the top of the page are the revenues by source for the general fund. To date, as of April 30th, 2020, revenue is $10,1,615, which is 88% of our budget. This is based on 10 months out of 12 months lapsed, or 83.33%. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve there. Expenditures at the bottom part, and this is column E. Total expenditures to date for the 10 months are $9,234,468, which gives to date a surplus of $767,147 for the general fund. Overall, the general fund is in good condition, but we have to remember that about 67% of the revenue comes from gross receipts, and we're expecting a large drop in gross receipts tax in the next few months. So we do need to remain extra vigilant and not spend if we don't have to, because just because it looks good today doesn't mean it might look as good in a few months. Taxation and Revenue Department economists projected drops in gross receipts revenue of 15% for March, 25% for April, and 30% for May, June, and July. They have not extended any projections beyond July. So we're working with only this. And another thing to keep in mind is that we receive gross receipts tax revenue 2 months after it's collected by the business people in our community. So a person walks into Walmart or wherever and spends their money, Walmart has till the next month on the 25th to report to Santa Fe, and then Santa Fe has another month to give us the money. So for the April report, we're reflecting February's gross receipts. That's the reason it hasn't gone down. But in the next few months is when COVID kicks in, the emergency order, and a reduction in gross receipts will happen. So I think we're pretty well set for this fiscal year, but we might not be for next year. We don't know what's going to happen. Not many projections are out there that we can look at. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Any questions on the general fund?
Mr. Mayor? Go ahead.
I just have a question. As far as gross receipts, I know the state's giving us, predictions as to how much, the expectations of, the decline. But I just kind of comment, I've seen, the hardware stores, the Walmarts, hardware store, one of them hired 5, 6, additional people. So I don't know if those numbers might be, I don't know, it's kind of like a balance that you're seeing more people spending at the hardware stores and at the Walmarts. Yes, they're not spending at the local businesses, but to me, I think they're spending a lot more at the BTUs, the haciendas, but just the comment that I kind of see going on.
We had that discussion, and I think this is the same conjecture that people are changing what they're buying. And I think that unlike some other states where they allow people to go into Walmarts, but they could only buy food items, the fact that ours still allows you to purchase other things will help us. And the other thing that's really helping is that our community, has been able to tap into some of the I call it disaster relief funds, and the extension of the unemployment benefits, but those do run out, so people are able to keep spending because they're getting assistance, but we don't know for how long,
Yeah.
and that's really a big concern.
Okay, the next...
Mr. Baca? Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of questions and a comment. So we don't know what the budget's going to look like for the reasons you just mentioned next budget year.
Right.
Are we looking at this point where the city can save money, not overspend or cut expenses?
At this point, we are. We're looking at, I'm starting with salaries, and not to cut salaries.
Yeah.
I don't want to get anyone up in arms and that we're going to fire anyone. But our records as far as how much we're actually supposed to be spending versus what we're spending are not matching. So at this point, it's taken a lot of time to try and just get those records to match. And we still haven't gotten quite there. But we hope to be there within the next couple of weeks.
Mr. Mayor, in the news, I've had some stories in the week or two. As you mentioned, every city is having a hard time because of this COVID-19 budget-wise. Albuquerque was going to contact Washington to see if they'd give them permission to use the money that they got through the COVID bill
Right.
for their cover costs. They had to furlough some employees. Santa Fe has had to do the same thing. Santa Fe today was reporting that they expect to be $36 to $39 million short. They too don't, they've had a big hit because the tourism is not there, the gross receipts tax. So I'm just wondering, and you already said that you're looking at next year and planning.
Yes, we're
what we
looking
can
at
do.
next year, and we have had some good news today. In fact, today we got good news from the Municipal League, where they sent out a memo saying that they will be covering 50% of our workman's comp and liability insurance costs for all of 2021
good.
of the budget. So that's a big help. So I ran over and told Dr. Taylor, it's at
That's
least
okay.
it gives us a little bit more wiggle room.
Yeah.
Mr. Luvati?
Mr. Mayor, yeah. How about our nonprofit organizations, how much money are we, I know our groceries and taxes are gonna go low and that, how much money are we gonna give nonprofit organizations? Probably it's gonna be really bad on groceries. We're gonna have to take a look at that too.
Exactly. I was going to talk about the 2021 budget in a little while, but I'll talk about it now because we're
Okay.
leading into that.
Go ahead.
But the 2021 preliminary budget is usually due June 1st. But because of the impact of COVID-19 and the public health emergency and the stay-at-home orders, governments, as you just said, we're facing so much uncertainty and so much we don't know. It's a bunch of unknowns. So the LFC's local government division recognized that governments are having problems in projecting what can we're guessing what might happen next year. So what they did is they temporarily adjusted and amended their budget process because of unknown revenues. So what's going to happen is governments, municipalities are going to be able to roll over their 2020 budget, and that's going to become an interim budget until July 31st. By July 31st, we think that we'll have a better grasp on what's happening with revenues. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to roll over our budget for June and July, and then the final budget will be due July 31st, and then I plan to come to council to get approval for that budget in July. So that lifts a huge weight from us.
Sure.
Not to have to guess and try and guess, as well as we can. Another thing that was put in place for next year, for the 2021 budget, is they're allowing, for the end of 2020 budget, governments cannot be in a negative cash balance. But for 2021, they're allowing negative cash balances. I don't think we'll get there. Our cash balance are very healthy. They're not going to hold governments in 2021 to the 1/12 or 3/12, depending on what type you are. So at least we've had some good news. And this gives us a little bit of time to study everything a little bit better and do a little bit more of cash flow analysis and stress tests to see what we think will really happen, even though we still will probably be estimating a lot.
Okay.
Let me just say something. These guys have been working weekends and everything else trying to catch up because so much of the data that we had not been updated. So we had data. We were using the insurance costs from 3 years ago.
And
We were
been
using.
updated.
We just didn't have the right kinds of information that we needed, and we're getting that fixed. And it's we're gonna put our accounting work in good working order, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and then there's accounting and there's budgeting, and one is accounting for things that have already been done, the other is forecasting forward, which involves a lot of guesswork, but at least we have something to go on.
Well, Mary, thank you for your staff and for you to work all those hours over. And Bill, I've offered to you just to, anytime we have to do this, please reward our employees accordingly and thank them for it. Thank you. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, so any more questions on general fund? Okay, then let's go to the next one, which is the enterprise funds. Okay, the enterprise funds on column E, total revenue to date, which is 10 months out of the 12, is $13,693,331. Total expenses at the bottom of column E in the bottom is $13,940,251, which is a deficit of $246,920. The budget was put in place with a huge deficit in it. It's a over $3 million deficit, so they're doing really well with only having the $246,000 deficit. So,
And they have tremendous balances.
right.
So, some of these things are capital expenditures, they're not, it's not recurring operating
Right.
expenditures.
Any questions on the enterprise funds? No? Okay, the next one is the recreation fund. Hopefully you all got the new sheet in front of you. Okay, the recreation fund is a little bit not where we want it to be, but it's because the rec center has to be closed because of the emergency order. For revenues, they brought in, and this includes a $333,200 transfer from general fund to the recreation department or the rec center. So the total, including that transfer, revenues are $458,652. Down at the bottom, total expenditures to date, $516,178, which gives them a deficit of $57,526,000. If you notice that kind of the salaries, the employee expenses on the first row of the expense section, it kind of jumps out at you as a big figure. So we questioned that, Dr. Taylor and I, and last year's salaries to date at the rec center were $396,367, and this year to date, they're $458,620. So we questioned this, and it has to do, it's not because they hired more people, it's because of the minimum wage increases. The increase, they hire a lot of part-time, low-paid employees. And most of their part-timers were paid between $8 and $8.15 an hour. And when the minimum wage was going to go to $9, the city council decided to give everyone, or to hire at a minimum wage of, or a minimum amount of $10 per hour. So a lot of the staff at the rec center were bumped up from $8 to $10. And on top of that, benefits are about 30%. So it's not only the $2 that we bumped them up, but it's also a little bit more because of benefits. Any questions on the rec center?
No. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, and then the last one is the lodger's tax. And the lodger's tax has revenue of $338,110, expenditures of $266,268, and I didn't figure the the surplus or the deficit. In this case, it's a surplus. But they do have a budgeted cash balance of $27,143.45.
Good.
Okay?
Well, we know what's happening to that fund as well,
Yes.
being highly impacted because
This
there's
one
no
is- Yes,
heads in the beds.
yes. Oh, and I know we got off on another track a while ago when we were talking about nonprofits. The memo that came out of DFA's Local Governments Division. There we go, couldn't remember their name. Okay, the Local Governments Division specifies certain things that you should not be doing in your government or in the city, not in the municipality, due to uncertainties about revenues. And one of them is nonprofits. They're looking at maybe not funding nonprofits at the level that were funded before. So I think you're the one that brought it up. So, and that comes from DFA.
And you're saying that there's several items that they're going to recommend that not be done?
Yeah.
Do you have a list of
I
of
do,
them?
I have it in my
I'd like to
office.
have a copy
I
of that
can-
for information.
Oh, goodness. No, what was it, reoccurring?
They really focused on the, recurring revenues and recurring expenses, and
Expenses.
trying to have those match.
Match.
They
So that-
also said that, at this time, you probably should not be increasing wages, now we do have a minimum wage.
Increase that
We
we're
don't-
going to.
We can't avoid that. That you look at not hiring
Non-essential
non-essential
workers.
personnel. So we're looking at that as well. So we're going to be looking at all of those things to try to anticipate as much as we can and do the kinds of things that
That they're
you all have been
recommending.
talking about, so that we avoid a financial crisis, because we do want to avoid as much as possible. Well, we want to avoid having to do furloughs. They've already done them in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't, we're
We
not
don't
in a
wanna
position we
stake
have to
that.
do it this year. We hope that we don't do
Have
it
to
next
do it
year.
next year.
So we're going to really look at that budget very closely.
And we need to understand and keep in mind when we're doing that budget, that this one-time aid from the state, such as the workman's comp liability and the liability premiums that they're going to pay half of them, but it's a one-time thing. Full force comes back in 2022. So we need to be careful that we don't say, oh, we have money, so let's do this, that we use restraint.
Well, I think we have the best financial team that we could ever ask for. And I really appreciate you, Mary, and I appreciate Bill. Bill's an expert at, financial planning, and you are too with budget. So I just thank you, and I couldn't be happier to have you with us. Thank you, Mary.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe, Mr. City Manager, you could look into this. There was a story in New Mexico News just recently that Representative Ben Ray Lujan is passing a bill, and it is money to help municipalities. Are you aware of that one?
Yes, and this is a $3 trillion disaster relief extension, and a lot of it goes to municipal and state
Municipalities,
governments.
yeah.
The state of New Mexico is not in a position to be able to help any of its municipalities. They're probably going to be hit worse than we are, because they're not going to just take hit on the web receipts tax, but also on
The oil and gas,
revenues.
yeah.
And so, and they're not allowed to run a deficit. Only the federal government can do that. And so, we're hoping that happens, but we can't plan on it. And so until we know,
Yeah.
we have to kind of assume that it doesn't happen, and then and I think there's a good chance it will, that we're able to use that money in a way that helps us get through not only this year and next year, but also builds up the reserves to help us the next year.
And in that same bill, he also put in there that funding be made available to help small businesses. So maybe we can follow up and look into that, so we can take advantage of that.
Right.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to go over the checks.
Oh, the check reports, right?
Yes, it's in your packet.
It's in our packet.
If you have any questions, I'll attempt to answer them.
I don't have any questions right now. I have it in my packet.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions in the future, you can just
Thank
call
you.
me.
And I think that's something that we should talk about in our organizational meeting, that we need to
Yes.
do every check.
Yeah, I don't agree that we do.
Okay. Oh, I had one more thing before
Go ahead.
I leave, is the rollover of the interim budget. DFA is going to allow us to make any changes that we can at this point, so that we're not forced to make a lot of changes at the end. So one of the changes that we are going to make is we're going to put in the housing budget because it was approved.
Oh, okay.
And then there was a few errors in last year's budget that dealt with the utilities that caused a lot of problems during the year for utilities not being able to make bars the way the budget was set up. So we're going to make those little corrections now, and then we'll come to you for approval in July.
Good.
Okay?
I appreciate it.
And that's
Good
my
information.
report.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time here. Ms. Vasquez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The
Yes.
next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and it consists of the 5 items that were on the work session.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the items in the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Romero has a motion. Do I get a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Baca. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Uribarri Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Baca?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, second by Councilor Baca. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Next item, yes, sir.
should we have approved the finance report or not? No. Okay.
The next item, Cassandra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We move on to business items. The first item is to conduct a public hearing and approval disapproval to adopt ordinance 20-01. We have Maria Perea, our planning and zoning coordinator, to present this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to enter to a public hearing.
There's a motion to enter into a public hearing. A second, please.
A second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Baca?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Uribarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would ask that our city attorney swear those in who will be speaking on this item.
Stand and raise your right hand. After me. I swear under penalty of perjury
I swear under penalty of perjury
that all the representations I'm going to make
that the representations that I'm going to make
are the truth and nothing but the truth.
are the truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Welcome, Mary, and welcome one of our former employees, Pearl. Worked with the city of Las Vegas for how many years?
Like 6 years.
Yes. Well, welcome to your old stomping grounds.
Thank you.
Mary, go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Maria Perea, the Planning and Zoning Coordinator for Community Development, and tonight I'm doing a presentation for a zone change from an R2 multifamily residential to an R3 mixed family residential for property located at 2122 North Gonzales Street and 139 Delgado Street. The property owner, Ms. Nora Mes, would like to split the property up into 2 so she can transfer the one property to her daughter Pearl, but with the R2 requirements, it would not have met the standards. So we recommended that they be changed to an R3 so that it can meet the area size requirements.
Okay.
And
Anybody?
this is Pearl Mays, and she's the one that's going to do presenting for her mother.
Okay. Pearl, do you have anything to say? I know that you discussed this a little bit. It has to do with the space requirements between
Yes.
2 properties.
Yes. I'm just asking that you do consider, being that it's in Old Town and it doesn't have the, I guess, a 7 feet for each house on the back. But a lot of them don't in Old Town, so I'm hoping that you'll take it into consideration and that it does pass.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
clarification, but what you're saying, the properties are in the same, they belong to the same owner, and then the properties are
See what
together,
happened?
and they don't have that 6-foot required distance.
That's not what it is. What it was is, it's one big property.
Yeah.
Okay? In the R2, the first, they can have 2 houses.
Yeah.
One requires like 7,000 square feet. The second house can only require 1,200 square feet or 2,400, I think, as long as there's a space between them.
Yeah.
Mrs. Mays wanted to transfer the property to her daughter, but if they were going to cut it where they wanted to, it did not meet the area size requirements of 7,000 square feet per the thing. It meets all the rest of the things. So we made a recommendation for them to do it to an R3, which only requires 5,000 square feet per area for each property.
Thank you.
And it will meet the 5 feet or whatever requirements for the property line now.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll open for comments from the public. No comments? So do we need to go back into regular session? Or can we act on it now?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The next would be to approve the record proper that was included as exhibits in your packet
Okay.
for the record.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
make a motion to approve the record proper.
We have a motion by Mr. Romero, second. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I had one question to ask
Yes.
Ms. Maria. So according to the documentation that we received, there was no objection?
No
Neighbors or
objection.
anything?
No objections at all through planning and zoning. I only have received one phone call, and the only concern this person had was that we weren't going to put a trailer park, another trailer park in that back property. And I assured her that it wasn't big enough to hold the mobile home park in there or whatever. It was only for one house, would only be big enough for one house.
And the other question that I had, information that we have here isn't signed by the chairperson of planning and zoning. Did it not go before planning and zoning?
It did go to planning and zoning, but what are you talking about?
Exhibit 12, this is facts, finding of facts.
No, I don't, that's why I put, I think that, no, they haven't been signed yet. I usually take them back to the next planning and zoning meeting and have them do them.
Should they not be signed before they come to us, or?
I've never done it that way, but I can start doing it that way.
I guess, Mr. Attorney, could you check into that? If they're giving a recommendation at the time, it should be signed before it comes to us, and not basically the...
I will, and I believe the understanding was, and it was included in the ordinance, that there was a public hearing done by planning and zoning.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, everything's prepared for your signatures. I'd be happy to confirm that.
Thank you. What do we do next?
Mr. Mayor, I would need a motion to end the public hearing and go back into regular session.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
make a motion to end the
Public hearing?
and enter to regular session.
All right. Second? Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. We are back into regular session. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 20-01.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Romero, second. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate your time. And thank you, Pearl. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All righty.
I thank you for approving it too.
Absolutely.
Now we can proceed with everything else.
Thank you. All righty. Ms. Vasquez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item on the agenda, item 2, is approval, disapproval to cancel the following events. We have number 1, 4th of July fiestas, number 2, 4th of July city fireworks celebration, and number 3, motorcycle rally.
Mr. Hendrickson, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, an update to, since the last meeting, the motorcycle rally folks have notified us that they were canceling the event because of the virus. Our department is recommending approval for the cancellation. And when we talk about cancellation, we're just talking about the dates for the event, the 4th of July for fiestas and the 4th of July fireworks. What we intend to do is to, monitor what we're going to be allowed to do, when we can have large events, and then start planning. We're going to start planning ahead of time, but moving it out to September or October. Hopefully that by then we can have 1,000 people out on the plaza or something like that, where we can have some kind of a big event in the town. So the cancellation is more of a delay, but that's our plan.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Baca.
Mr. Hendrickson, I noticed too, are we voting, are we waiting till maybe end of July or so to think about People's Fair? Because I don't see People's Fair on your list.
People's Fair is going through lodger's tax, and that's another thing that we have to look at from the city standpoint, whether we can permit that larger grouping in July. And there again, it's a timing situation. Can we look that far ahead and say we can allow 100, 200 people out on the grounds? Or how would that be managed?
Yeah.
And so we haven't really got to that point yet.
So you might end up pushing that date even further.
That would be up to the Arts Council.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson. Yes, sir. Mr. Ulibarri?
To approve, I'm going to approve to cancel the following events: 4th of July Fiesta, the firework celebration, and the motorcycle rally.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Ulibarri. We need a second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baca. Roll call, please.
Counselor Metoyer?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Ulibarri Jr., a second by Counselor Baca. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson. I
you,
appreciate
ma'am.
your time.
Sure. Thank you, Council.
Next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, the next item is disapproval of Resolution 20-21 to appoint William Taylor, City Manager, as authorized representative to execute a grant offering for the Las Vegas Municipal Airport. And we have Danny Goulet, our Public Works Manager.
Mr. Goulet, thank you for coming. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here seeking approval of Resolution 2021 to appoint Mr. Taylor, City Manager, authorized representative to execute the grant offering for the airport.
Okay.
At this point, I'll stand for any questions.
I'll entertain a motion. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 20-21 to appoint William Taylor as authorized representative.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Metoyer?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Goulet, and please thank your crew. You guys are doing a wonderful job with our streets. Thank you so much. Ms. Vasquez?
Mr. Mayor, item number 4, discussion direction on selection process for the campaign and ethics board. And we have our Counselor Baca to present.
Mr. Baca, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. Excuse me. I just wanted to read a little bit of a statement, Mayor and councilors, but we know that establishing the Campaign and Ethics Board is mandated by the charter. We all know the recent past that we've been in, and the community and its citizens have been under a lot of pressure, and the employees faced harassment, abuse of power, all in the hands of one person. It made the community feel very, very uncomfortable. I believe that we, as elected officials, will have to work hard to regain the trust of the community and the respect, and also not only the citizens, but also our elected officials in Washington and in Santa Fe. And I don't consider the setbacks that the city has faced in the last couple of years as problems. I see them more as an opportunity and challenges, so that this governing body can really work together with our staff to move our community forward and make it really the prosperous community that it can be. I also feel that we don't want to give the State Attorney General any more reasons to come and investigate us. I think that establishing an ethics commission sends a positive message. And it sends a message that this governing body is serious about doing the right things and representing our community in honesty and fairness. Probably the biggest challenge in my mind of establishing an ethics board, and the charter lays out the procedures to who names who and so forth. But maybe the biggest challenge will be the people selected. How do we select them? Because those individuals too, in my opinion, with themselves have an ethics that they follow themselves, so that they wouldn't abuse that appointment. We don't want it to be a situation where then maybe false accusations are made against this governing body or city staff. So I think, again, the critical thing would be who would serve on that commission. I would hope that this afternoon that the mayor and council would approve this to appoint an ethics commission.
I'll entertain a discussion. I just have a comment about that is, do we have a structure as far as how it's going to run, who brings cases forward, who does this, and how we sort of triage the recommendation to the ethics board, et cetera? If we don't, I would recommend that we definitely look at a process that's a well-written out policy or ordinance that writes out exactly how that functions, what issues are brought forward, those types of things. If we don't have that, then we're appointing people to a committee that doesn't have any guidelines.
No direction, yeah.
So I would like to see perhaps maybe if the attorney could do some research on other municipalities' ethics boards. I'm sure they have an ordinance, what goes before them, how they decide, who reviews it, how the recommendations from that board follow. I don't feel like it would be right to appoint a group of people if they don't have any rules and regulations to follow.
Exactly, Mayor. Those, I agree with you 100%. Personally, I think also they would have to include, hopefully, a person with a legal knowledge, an attorney, that he or she understands municipal government. And, but I agree with everything you said, Mayor.
Any other comments?
So, Mr. Mayor, you're saying that we give direction here tonight maybe to our attorney as to, you know, put I guess guidelines as to, or what do we?
Yeah, there's other cities that have them.
Yeah.
For him to research and maybe come to us with a model that says, you know, exactly what I said. How do concerns go? What is a committee's power? Where do their recommendations go? How does city council handle them? Those types of things. I don't feel like it's prudent right now to appoint people if they don't have a working model.
Right.
So, with that, is there any other discussion?
No, I just, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Baca. You know, I think I'm with you, Councilor Baca, as far as, yes, we're not ready, but at least, you know, we're working towards.
Start the process.
We're working towards doing something that we should have been. I'll tell you, it's not for a lack of effort. This hasn't been done, but it's something that, I mean, it's mandated through the charter and something that we should address. But I'm with the mayor that's, I don't know, and I know Mr. Attorney is probably swamped with everything that he's doing, so I don't know how soon we could, you know, address this or.
Yeah, we'll have it at his leisure, you know. I mean, if it takes him a while to research and put the best model forward, I'd rather have a really good model than something that doesn't work well.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think the words that you used would be the perfect wording for the motion, which would be, like you said, give direction to the city attorney to proceed. And you're right, councilors, that we're not ready at this time to make that decision.
No.
We need a lot of research, and so that when we if we do this, that we know what we're doing, and that it's done correctly. So I agree with you to give direction to the attorney to do research.
And I've seen in other communities where a committee like this could be very destructive
And that's what I meant
if
by...
they don't have a solid
Yeah.
way to follow and procedures that way, so.
And we don't, and that's what we don't want to create.
Right,
We don't want to create a monster.
thank you. So, discussion anymore?
So with that, I just make a motion to give direction to the city attorney as to come up with the procedures.
There's a motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Baca, roll call please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Baca. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez?
Our next item is approval, disapproval of Resolution 20-22, a resolution to begin the process to transfer the annual contributions contract for the Las Vegas Housing Authority from the City of Las Vegas to the Northern Regional Housing Authority. We have Natasha Martinez, our Finance Specialist, Office Manager in Housing.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Taylor, would you like to give just a brief presentation as to what this is about so that we, and support Natasha?
Thank you.
So, I'd be glad to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And so I think that we discussed this in some detail at the work session, that we've been in conversations with Housing and Urban Development to join just about every other municipality in the state in transferring our housing authority to Regional Housing Housing Authority. We discussed that the benefits to that were that there would actually be more resources available to provide those kinds of housing opportunities for low-income people, and that it would reduce our costs and obligations. And so after the meeting, it requires a resolution for us to start this. Once we make our resolution, then HUD will make a similar resolution. And so I don't know if Natasha, you've been in subsequent conversations with HUD, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, we discussed this. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just, before we take the vote tonight, this is something that I think there has to be, our community needs to understand, is that this isn't something that we're just doing it to get out of the situation that we're in. I think it needs to be understood that we're doing this, and this is my opinion, I don't know how the vote's going to turn out yet, but in my opinion, housing, we have our residents that need to be taken care of. And because of things that have happened in the past, we haven't been able to give them 110% of what they deserve of, programs or additional resources that the housing deserves, that these low-income residents deserve. And with this transfer, like you mentioned, they will, get these resources. And it's not something that, we don't need to have control as a city council. There will still be a representative from Las Vegas in the area that will represent these individuals on this board when we make that transfer. The office will continue to stay open. We're not gonna, the residents aren't gonna have to go to Taos or to where the office is in Northern. They're still gonna have our office. The employees are still gonna continue to work for housing. Another comment is I did contact a few employees and asked them their opinion on this, and amazingly, I think all but one, one had questions, the rest of them were all in favor of this. They understand that their hands have kind of been tied through this whole situation, and I've been a proponent of this, since I first got on board, and we tried to do this transfer, and we are where we're at, and hopefully, this gets done, and it's my opinion and my comment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I mentioned earlier that I had been communicating with the city manager from Raton, and he introduced me over the phone to this Mr. Terry Baca, and Natasha can tell us more about him and his knowledge. But we discussed this, I discussed this with him, and he said that this, if the city does this, that it would really send a message of a good faith effort on our part, and that it would make us look very good with the regional housing authorities. And so I think it's a good move.
Thank you. Anybody else, Mr. Montoya?
Yes, I'd just like to clarify, I guess there was a misprint on the update
that we're giving.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
It's hard to talk with this.
I know.
But, yeah, no, apparently, I was reading that there was a misprint on the Las Vegas Daily Optics where they were saying that we're transferring it to the city of Raton. And that's not necessarily the case. We're transferring, if we do transfer it, to another entity. It's another organization, not particularly another city. But like Councilman Romero said, there'll still be the office here and it'll still be managed here. Our employees are still going to stay with them if that happens. So residents are still going to be the residents and so forth. So just a little bit of clarification.
Thank you. Natasha?
What might help the community just understand it better?
Remove your mask. Sorry.
I know, I just am wearing lipstick and it's tied to my hair tie. So my hair will go down too. Hopefully I don't have lipstick everywhere. But what might help clarify to the community is we're regionalizing. This is what communities have done throughout the state of New Mexico, throughout the nation.
Sure.
We're consolidating, as things go on, there's less funding for different programs. So when you consolidate resources, then, there's one person, there's one accounting software, there's one fee accountant, there's one person for all of these different areas. We're hitting Colfax, Raton, Taos, Cuesta, there's all of these different areas that are all going to be intertwined together, and we could work together. We have a lot of vacancies, there's maintenance guys that might not be working on other units. Instead of pulling from our public works, we could pull from, guys that are in other areas. It's really a consolidated effort of the North. So to really be able to bring that kind of service to our tenants here in Las Vegas, they're already doing it throughout the state. We have Eastern Regional, who's a strong housing authority, and with the leadership down there, they've all consolidated. They've made, I think it was Chief Carey that just went over there with Eastern. They've made it a stronger, stronger housing authority down south, just helping everybody work together. Meeting of the minds, this is the experience that we're going to be giving to them as well. We have maintenance individuals have been there for 20, 25 plus years that can help in their expertise to the people over there. It's just for the public to know that the services aren't going anywhere. If anything, this is the perfect opportunity for us to regionalize, and now we can partner with the city. The Northern Regional Housing Authority can still partner with the city for programs. Our city council and our mayor will still be involved in all the ribbon cutting ceremonies, anything like that. We listed it out on those bullet points that you guys all had in your packet. I'm sure you all read it, so I won't read through them. But that's just, some of the little frosting that comes with the cake of it all.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. If we can we have Natasha go ahead and just, for the record and for the listening audience, go ahead and just, let them know what those benefits are, if we can.
Would you like me to read the bullets?
I'll allow that.
Yeah.
For the time.
All right, thank you. Current challenges for the local government. Cities and counties are not designed to manage municipalities, not housing programs. Elected governing bodies must oversee a wide variety of programs and services, whereas a PHA board exists exclusively to focus on housing programs similar to a school board. Budgeting and accounting for housing programs significantly increases the difficulty for general fund accounting. As you saw, we had to bring our budget before they bring theirs, or we bring the big budget. Local governments, and this is just a little typo that was on there. Local governments don't have the resources to handle ongoing tenancy issues in an efficient and effective manner. Our poor city attorney has to deal with our evictions as well as everything else that he has on his plate. Housing program policies and procedures are extremely complex and often conflict with local government policies and procedures. We have deadlines that got sent out for procurement when we're told that we have to obligate money and spend money all the way to June 30th. Just different things like that. Housing programs operate as a department of a local government and must have a different set of standards, procurement, financial management, salaries, benefits, which result in millions of dollars of assets not being utilized for local housing programs. It takes a while to get things through the circuits of the local government. By the time we get a contract, then we have to get it out to HUD, and by that time, we're months and months have passed and we haven't gotten anything all the way through.
Across New Mexico, almost all municipal-controlled housing programs have been transferred to independent public housing authorities. Benefits of transferring, in addition to the relief from all the issues listed above. Employees would transition from city employees to independent public housing authority employees, and the employees would benefit from increased opportunity from advancement, training, performance-based compensation, and will no longer require city resources. So, we won't need, we'll have a controlled HR, everything is standard through, like a laborer on one end for utilities isn't the same as a maintenance worker for us. There's different kinds of, classifications. Local government does not have the liability associated with maintenance and occupancy of hundreds of housing units and tenants. There's different kinds of insurances that are available to us as a public housing authority that aren't available as a local government. There's insurances that are specifically for housing authority because they know the types of lawsuits that go into, something that might happen on a property and opposed to a local government. The Independent Public Housing Authority can provide a wider variety of programs and services to residents. There's programs out there that once you're a larger housing authority, you can actually apply for additional monies that you can't necessarily apply for when you're a small housing authority like us, and that's a lot of the reason for some of the consolidations around the state and nation. The Independent Public Housing Authority can demonstrate a greater need and capacity when competing for new funding. This is kind of the same thing. The Independent Public Housing Authority is more efficient and saves significant tax dollars on operational overhead such as audit fees, software, and accounting. And that's kind of the stuff that I went over at the beginning. Just one person, one fee. It makes it a lot easier, one audit, and they're auditing the same type of program the whole way through. An Independent Public Housing Authority acts in partnership with the local government to develop new housing opportunities without pulling from city resources. We can have consolidated efforts, and it's not necessarily just a department of the city. It's the housing authority working with the city.
Thank you for your explanation. At this point, I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, please.
make a motion for,
Go ahead.
Just one comment before the motion, if I may. I was mentioning to the city manager the other day that, and I'm sorry I keep referring to the news, but that's what I do. But there was a story where several communities in New Mexico had received a share of, I think it was $2.9 million, maybe it was more than that. And so when I went through the list in reporting the news, it had Raton, it had all these small communities. And I thought, well, what happened to us? Why was Las Vegas left out? And I even asked Tamara during our meeting, are we blacklisted with HUD? And so I wonder, how come we didn't get a share of that money?
Yeah.
Maybe this will help us to be in a better position that we can get some of that money, because HUD provides, as you know, money for a lot of things besides housing. So, just my comment.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you, Councilor
Mayor,
Romero.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 20-22 to begin the process of transfer the annual contribution contract for the Las Vegas Housing Authority from the City of Las Vegas to the Northern Regional Housing Authority.
There's a motion on the floor. Second, please. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Natasha, thank you for your time. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Ms. Vasquez?
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is executive session. Matters.
Do we need an executive session? No? Council?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Mr.
Next order of business?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next is the city manager's appointments. First item is approval, disapproval to appoint Donna Castro as Human Resource Director. Our city manager, Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor?
So I think everybody's had a chance to look at Ms. Castro's resume and compare it to the job requirements, and I think you'll see that she has 30 years of senior experience as a HR director at Highlands University, Northern New Mexico, and as a consultant. And I've worked with Ms. Castro. She's a very professional person. She has extensive knowledge of all areas of HR, from everything from payroll, which she's a real expert on, to conflict resolution. She's been involved in negotiations with unions and other things, and I just have a lot of faith in her and highly recommend her for this position.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve, approval to appoint Donna Castro as Human Resource Director.
A second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Olivares Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval to appoint Stephen Aragon as Parks and Recreation Director. Again, we have City Manager Taylor.
So as we've heard today, I think that Parks and we are going to create a Parks and Recreation Department because they work so, they're so interconnected. And we need somebody who has the kind of skills and abilities and really the passion more than anything else to make this work. And so I'm recommending that Stephen Aragon, who has been an administrator with the courts, but has had some experience related to athletics, but more than anything, just brings the kind of skills that we need, administrative skills, and the passion to see this forward. I've interviewed him several times throughout this period, and I think that he has the ability to do it, but most importantly, he really wants to see this happen, and he really wants to see us do what we can to improve our parks and improve our recreational programs. And so,
Thank you. And Mr. Aragon is with us tonight. Mr. Aragon, welcome. We appreciate you being here and taking the time so we could have a face with the name. Can you take your mask off for us? Just kidding. Welcome. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just real quick, and if I can ask, a question of Mr. Aragon is, what do you envision, you as being the director, where do you take the recreation department? I'm a good, I love sports also myself, and not only sports, activities for the youth. As you know, we lack that here in our community. So what's your vision of it, being director? I have that question for you tonight.
I think the biggest vision to look at is, a lot of times maybe because we're a small community, we say, okay, there's reasons why we can't. I'm not that type of person. There's always, if there's something that we want to accomplish, we put our mind to it, we're going to accomplish it. And our youth need it, our community needs it, our seniors need it, all age groups, especially in a time like this. Vision-wise, obviously, Councilman Romero, and if I'm misinterpreting, please correct me, sir, but our programs have slowly dwindled as the years have gone. I can speak for when I was a youth growing up, always lived here in Las Vegas in the community, and those programs have gotten smaller. And we have amazing resources in our community, and not only our community, but the vision of the people, how active our community is, it's limitless on what we can do.
And I'm sure, as mayor was elected and the fellow councilman, I mean, that's a big issue within our community, the youth, having them something to do with, so they don't stay in trouble. We can't, in my opinion, we can't continue to afford, families can't afford some of the prices that, and of course, we have to, we can't continue to run in a deficit, and we have to be visionary and come up with different ideas as to make it cost-effective, affordable for families, for them to, do these things. We can't just have these programs for the rich, I guess you can say. We need to make them affordable for the ones that can't afford it. So with that, in my opinion, a lot of expectation coming from you. we, needs a lot of help. Our parks, the same thing, you know, our Little League fields, our parks, and there's a lot of needs. You have a big, some shoes to fill that I think you could get it done. Hopefully you do get it done, and it's just my comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If I can just for a second, I did promise an elementary class that invited me over during the election to a forum that we would be creative in helping to create good after-school programs where they don't just go to play, but there's mentors there to teach them and to counsel them and to help them with algebra or math or whatever, that we involve maybe the university, the athletic department at the university to serve as mentors and tutors for an after-school program. But I did promise that, so I have to make good on my promise or those kids are going to come looking for me. So, but I did mention that there's no reason why we can't have a good after-school program that would actually help parents as well. You know, work with our transportation department to get the kids from, you know, from school to the rec center, you know, and that type of thing. Work with the city buses and all that, with the school buses to get kids there. And so I'd really like to see that place filled up to the capacity, you know. So, Mr. Baca, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mayor and councilors, welcome. I think you'll do a good job. One of the concerns, I've been talking to Ron Doss and Eric Ellery from Genesis Computer. They're very involved with soccer, but they've brought up a lot of concerns of the only soccer field that we have.
It's not a field.
It's in terrible shape.
Yeah, it's a dump.
And there's a lot of potholes, a lot of unsafe situations for little kids. It has a lot of potential. They're telling me that if that area had a complex or a building constructed in the land there for a concession stand, part of it for storing their equipment, but also creating parking. And then a very serious issue on Commerce, the little kid, the only place they have to park, the parents, is along the side of the road. That's why they need a parking lot. And he says that little kids just run out of the car to go play, and he says residents that live in that area zoom up and down that street. So I told him I would check in to see if it'd be possible to install some speed bumps, because I think that nobody likes speed bumps. So if you know a road has speed bumps, you're going to avoid that road and go somewhere else. But it's creating a serious situation for the kids and the families. It needs a good sprinkler system. It needs a lot of work.
It's not a field. It's a piece of property.
Yeah.
It's not a field.
Well, that's what they're saying that we need.
Yeah, of course we do.
That we need a soccer field.
Yeah.
And, but they see the big potential that's there. And the other thing they pointed out to me, there's a piece of the property there that belongs to the highway department, and it attracts a lot of trash, syringe needles, and here we have all these kids playing there. So it'd be nice if you could look into it, if we could help develop a soccer field for them.
Mr. Taylor has already talked with Stephen about doing an assessment of all the parks.
Okay,
of what
good.
we need, what's broken, what we can fix.
Yeah.
Mr. Montoya, please.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, so what happens to the current recreation director? Or she moving on?
She will still be there at the recreation center. This is a level above that, and so we had a park supervisor position. We basically changed that park supervisor position into a parks and recreation, so to oversee both the parks and the recreation. And I've talked to her. She's really very fine with that. In fact, I met with her this morning to make sure that we had office space available for Mr. Aragon when he starts. I think he'll start on Tuesday because of the timing of our payroll system. But and she was very receptive to it. She was actually looking forward to this. I think that the kinds of skills that he has can complement hers, and we can have a much better program. And, you know, in terms of soccer, when I did the tour of the facility, I know that basketball is very popular here, but I asked, couldn't we use those facilities at some point, sometimes, for indoor soccer? And she said, yes, we need some equipment, but that kind of equipment is very inexpensive. And indoor soccer is something that, you know, if we had the money, I'd love to have an indoor soccer facility, really big, because in the wintertime, kids don't have a lot to do, and you can use it year-round. But we can start off by just using the facilities we have. Of course, we have to share them, and it's a scarce resource. But
Did you have another question, Mr. Montoya?
I just have a last comment on here, Mr. Mayor. I'm like overwhelmed, I think it's a word, of how this team has come about. I think that this council, mayor and council, we're very blessed to have the people that are working with us. And I'm already hearing comments in town that they see a different vision for Vegas and a different direction. And they're being acknowledged with their concerns. And I just like to mention that.
I've heard a lot of that too, Mr. Ulibarri.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Welcome, Steven. I live on the west side, I live on Rodriguez, right on top of Rodriguez. I've been there all my life. I've seen, talking about recreation, our kids need a lot of that. Our beautiful park back there is kind of run down. There's a small field. They use them, they don't use them, soccer fields. That's one of the best places that you could put something together and for our kids, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place, but, I'm hoping that, you go out there and look at the area. And say, some of those baseball fields, they don't use them. They do the field in and they play and the fields are bad, some of the fields are bad, but, hopefully we could get that Rodriguez going on soccer, baseball, whatever it is, but we got, how Mr. Mayor was saying, the parks over here for soccer, the ones, that's the best place that we could have in town, because we could get a lot of kids involved with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya?
For the approval of the appointment of Steven Aragon as Parks and Recreation Director.
Do you have a motion, a second?
Okay.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Montoya, second. Second by Mr. Ulibarri.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you for your work, Cassandra. Appreciate it.